on the eyes of an accountant, what should be the number that should be reflected in an estimate?
Yeah, so when we are looking at estimates, you definitely want to know like all your material costs, you want to know all your labor costs and have that worked out. The biggest thing that I find is that people don't then put enough. So sometimes you want to win a good job and everything, so you sort of cut into your but you're then at risk, if things do blow out. We've been in a very high inflationary environment, short on labor, so it just means that costs go up.
So welcome, Lawrence Petruzzelli, a legendary accountant in sunny Queensland, to the Profitable Estimator Podcast. How are you?
Yeah, doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me on. How are you going?
Well, it's a pleasure. Good. It's a pleasure that you came on this episode. And obviously, the way we start our conversation is would love to know who our guest is. And who's Lawrence Petruzzelli behind the curtain from running this successful accounting partnership, MDB Accounting. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm an accountant by trade. I'm really interested in businesses. I do look after a lot of businesses. So I really like that aspect of what I do is more in the business advisory space. But outside of just the normal accountancy stuff, I do a lot of content creation. I like to educate people on increasing the financial education of all Australians, and I also do a lot of content around street interviews on my social media, which has been getting quite a bit of traction. So I enjoy doing that because I just want to bring more awareness so people start at least thinking about their numbers, their wealth, and what the plan is, no matter if you're working for someone, if you run your own business, if you want to look at getting into an investment, whatever it is. I think it's really key that people start looking into their finances more, because otherwise, there's so many people that are quote unquote after your money, and you got the mainstream media, which is constantly negative. Whereas I think that we have a lot of opportunities here. You just need to educate yourself and sort of don't listen to the SBS and the ABC.
Okay. Well, that's one of the key aspects of this session is to get that insights from the likes of you. And here we are. We're going to peel the curtain a little bit more on your background, because you were involved before with construction industry. So tell us about a bit more of that, please.
Yeah, so I have done a few different things in my time. So before becoming an accountant, I had my own business in photography, but I was also in engineering as well. So there was some crossovers with a lot of infrastructure work in the telco industry. And I've also worked in HVAC and electrical as well, just during my time as I was doing my studies, and then into IT support and infrastructure around there, and then into accounting. And then the really cool thing about with the accounting, and even with sort of the family assets as well, they're very heavy in property development, construction, done everything from a single apartment Airbnb to even just looking over a few things from a 60-room motel that was completely renovated into self-contained short stay apartments. So a bit of dibbling and dabbling in all that, plus a lot of my clients that are in the construction industry, in the trade industry, that I do look after and ensure that their businesses are profitable and they're not paying too much tax.
That's it. Well, I really like the idea of you've delved into different aspects or facets of business types that you work into. And obviously, where your background is a culmination of the things that you've done in the past and how you help out different walks of life, or let's say businesses that you deal with. In majority, more of your clients are actually businesses, right?
Yeah. So especially ones that I personally look after. I mainly just work with businesses.
Okay. And we see your nice videos that you do out there, interviews, just to chat on how much people know about taxation. Obviously, it's a short clips, things that you try to enlighten everyone else. But let's dig deeper a little bit on what exactly should be the numbers that a tradie should be looking at, or tradie or a builder should be looking at, because there are two aspects in here. based on, I mean, as an estimator, there's two sides of the coin when you're actually doing estimating from both ends. But on the eyes of an accountant, what should be the number that should be reflected in an estimate?
Yeah, so when we are looking at estimates, you definitely want to know like all your material costs, you want to know all your labor costs and have that worked out. The biggest thing that I find is that people don't then put enough buffer in. So sometimes you want to win a good job and everything, so you sort of cut into your buffer, but you're then at risk, if things do blow out, as we have seen with, especially with inflation. We've been in a very high inflationary environment, short on labor, so it just means that costs go up. So if you quote out a job and then 12 months later, depending like when the job starts and everything else, if you don't build those contingencies in, or at least have something to allow those material costs to go up, or if there's a delay in the project, to have some sort of sunset clause or some sort of contingency there where it allows you to reprice, or have you want to just have yourself covered for any costs that could go up in the future, rather than a lot of people, they just wing it. Unfortunately, they just go, that sounds about like X amount of dollars on a job. And if it's a small job, then fair enough, you're not going to go into the details and the weeds. But if it is a big job, like if you get $100,000, $200,000 contract, that's where you really need to know your stuff, because a variance of 5-10% there can really make or break you, versus if it's a smaller job, a little bit of variance here or there, or if you lose a little bit on that job, you're not going to be out of business. I think that's where you really need to, especially on the bigger work, that's where you really need to sit down and go through, how much is my materials? How much is my labor? What's the timing on it? What are what's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? What's the most likely? And then go with the most likely. But the issue is a lot of people just try to think of what's the best case scenario. What's like the cheapest I can get my materials? What's the cheapest I can get the labor? I'm optimistic about my workforce. How fast can they, do the job and get everything else done? And unfortunately, people are people. They're not perfect. And you're going to have, sometimes where people are great, and sometimes where some jobs where they sort of blow out. So that's where those contingencies are really important. But I'd just say just go through and just in detail, just write everything out, get all the numbers together, and just try not to miss any parts, or just go I think or I feel, because you're thinking, your feelings aren't the actual numbers.
Now the follow-up question is, how often your clients actually comes to talk to you about, do we adjust our numbers, or how often they actually look at, say, or even referencing or inferencing the information, the profit and loss statement towards their estimate? So
that is one area where there is a bit of lack, I'd say, especially with a lot of small to medium businesses. The larger ones definitely do, but in those cases, they've got like an internal finance team, and their role is just to go through those numbers constantly. So it is a little bit harder for smaller businesses, and they're the ones where we do a bit more advisory work and get in the weeds with them. And from our perspective, we do look at more of an overall rather than a project by project. I have sort of given a bit of advice around for some of my clients to start looking at their numbers a bit more project by project, so they can track which projects are making money, which projects are losing money. But ultimately, when we're looking at things, we're looking at more like a month or a quarterly basis of the overall business health. But that's made up from all your different units. So every single project, the profit and loss on that then ends up going into what your gross profit is, because we look at what the gross profit is after you've had your labor and your material costs, and then we've got the general costs to operate the business as well. So that's how we sort of break it down. So you got your revenue that comes in, then you got your costs to deliver that service. So that's material and labor, and then you got your general operating expenses, which are fairly fixed depending on the size of the business, but that would be like your advertising, your director and management salaries, your accounting fees, staff amenities, travel costs, any vehicles, any sort of plant and equipment, and your capital expenditure, depreciation, that would be on there as well. So that's sort of how we differentiate it all.
Well, truth be told, there's a lot of tradies and builders we also encounter that who often we ask with this 3 set of questions, and predominantly, what they respond? Everything else is like no, right? So one of the key things that probably, we want to share out there is that when we often ask a question, how often you look at your profit and loss statement, a lot of people would actually look at and come back to us in such a way, they'll say, my bookkeeper does it. Okay, and when the last time you look at it and say, when that answer sounds like that technically it means they did it on an annual basis. Now, when you ask them, let's say, oh, well, we submitted our BAS. Okay. More likely, he knows that theirs is actually quarterly. But when someone actually responds to us that's saying that they look at it every month or sometimes every week, okay, we know that that owner, or let's say the finance or the manager, estimating manager, or let's say director, is on the dot in the money. The next best thing that obviously that's not been accounted for or accounted, typically you would get say no, is when do you also update your pricing? And when they say that, I say, well, when every year, every 6 months. So here's another issue that they encounter. Then the third question would more likely be the answer is already no, because they say, so now since you are looking at those numbers, how often you also update your price files based on, or your estimate based on the P&L and your pricing? And here they are. They'll actually confess that, say, oh, I haven't talked to my accountant yet. So is that often the case?
Yeah, it is one of those things, because the issue that you have is a lot of people, they'll look at what the cost is, right? And they just think, it's going to cost me more money to have more meetings with my accountant, or because what I do, like when I price up packages for my clients, I normally give them, hey, we can catch up on an annual basis, we can catch up on a quarterly basis, or we can catch up on a monthly basis. Now, they're going to be different tiers in price. So I never force anyone to do what they don't want to do. But the biggest issue that I find is that people are very much thinking, it's an extra cost to the business, but what they don't realize is how much is it costing them by not having an expert go through those numbers with them. Because if they have an expert go through those numbers with them, and like what you said, they can iterate faster and change their pricing, because they might be losing money for, like, even just say they catch up quarterly, they might be losing money for 2 months in a row. And then when they have that quarterly meeting, they finally go, oh yeah, I need to increase my prices. They already lost 2 months of projects, and depending what you've priced and then what other things you got in the pipeline. Whereas, if you look at your P&L monthly, and the awesome thing is, like, you only need an accountant to go through it with you if you don't really understand what's going on. But once you've had someone go through to you and show you how to read a profit and loss, how to read a balance sheet, you can then run the reports yourself. It's very easy these days. We're quite lucky with technology and cloud accounting, because we only use Xero. We don't really use any other software. I don't really recommend many of them. We do recommend like using other add-ons, like project management tools and all that integrate into Xero. But on the accounting side, we mainly like to work with Xero. The business owner, they can just go in and run a report, and as long as the books are up to date, that's where you can look at it weekly, monthly, and you don't need to pay extra for that accountant, but you should be involved and not abdicate it. Because I think the biggest red flag that you said, when my bookkeeper looks after it, it's like, when your bookkeeper, sure, they prepare all the numbers, they make sure that you're compliant, they make sure that your BAS is there and that you pay your taxes and all that, which is, we don't want to get an audit from the government. But let's be real here. They don't care about your business. Like, they care about doing their job. They care about serving you and getting everything else done, but they don't care about how much profit you're making this month or next month. And if you're not willing to pay for that extra meeting or whatever else, like the other person, the other client who's paying 3 times what you're paying for those monthly meetings and everything else, they're going to get priority. And because we've got a business to run, bookkeepers, accountants, we've got a business to run, just like other businesses have got a business to run. If someone came to you and said, I'll give you $10,000 to do X, Y, and Z, they're going to be put ahead of someone who goes, I'll give you $1,000 just to, do all these other things. So I think that's where you need to find a good accountant or a good bookkeeper that can really work in, show you all the numbers and everything, but just be ready to see it as an investment rather than an expense, because investing in really knowing your numbers will make you more money than what it will cost you. At first, it might feel like, it's a bit of a sting, but trust me, everyone that I've worked with where we've done monthly meetings, I've just seen their businesses grow and their profits increase. Because
oftentimes the limitation that they encounter is that they just, like you just said, it's about the expenses that they see upfront. But the hidden cost of not understanding your own numbers, with someone actually even or checking or looking at for you, saying, what happened to the cash flow? Where did money go? Or with that project, what's going on? So I know there are accountants who are proactively looking at job to job basis or project basis, but here it is, the reality of doing estimate is one side, but actually projecting the cash flow, that's another thing, which is obviously that's the part that once an estimate is done, the project has been won, that should be the number that you should work on in such a way that you could protect that approach, or the typical scenario of maverick spending. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
So more likely people would just, what do you get when you get to for example, when you get to a shopping, to shopping, right? And you have this sum of money on your pocket, you're not gonna think anymore. More likely you'll think about how to max out that amount because you see that number. But if the approach is more of like, hang on, profit first, take it out, remove that money. Now we're only looking at this amount of money here that we can work on. For example, like one of the books, I really love the book of Katie Marshall, right? Profit First Tradie.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things that she said was, you got to look at it like a toothpaste, right? Because if you have a full pack of toothpaste, more likely you squeeze that bit and everything just goes to waste. But if you have a lesser space on that toothpaste and you even squeeze every ounce of it, now more likely you'll maximize your money. So putting that in that perspective, in that regard, so having an accountant like you obviously can actually really solidify where's the finances are, what could be the expenses that should be done. It can be only used accordingly, because one of the key things that we do notice is that a lot of clients we work with don't even understand the overhead expenses should be covered in every hour of every labor that a tradie would work for them. So, and I think that's one of the key things that we've been friends for a while, and I've seen so many companies that you help out, probably just to delve more on how you yourself guided some clients from a newbie, or shall we say a really new trade company, just started to become eventually grow. Can you share some story like that?
Yeah, definitely. I had a guy, he was actually more a little bit in sort of maintenance. So we sort of went vertical, but now he does. So he's actually in, first he wanted to do lawn mowing, and then I said to him, he was working for a pool cleaner, and he was basically doing all the work. And I was like, why don't you just buy the pool cleaning company off that guy? And it was like this is more like the maintenance and repair side of things as well. And what I said to him was, purchase the business off him, because you're doing all the work. The guy's like off there trying to start up some other business. So sometimes it can be good to start off if you can purchase something. And he paid about $60,000 for it, which was all the equipment and everything. Got a loan based on the business owner that was selling it, so seller finance. So he just paid it out of profits over a 2-year period. But he grew that from $80,000 a year revenue to $250,000 by just dedicating to it, hitting up all the real estate agents and doing all the maintenance work, but then also repricing them as well, because I said to him, just increase all the prices. There's a shortage of people there. They're screaming out for people to clean their pools and everything else, and especially over summer. Like, people who leave at last minute, just charge them a surcharge. Like, the ones that want to do it over winter, you give them the standard rate, especially if it's a pump upgrade or anything like that. So I sort of just coached him through that, and he grew it from $80,000 to $250,000 in that 2-year period, paid the loans off and everything. So that's one way that you can get started if you're working under someone, that you can actually acquire their business. Another one that I had that started from scratch, just started as a sole trader doing some contract work, then eventually got some of their own contracts. Then we put them into a company structure once they hit about $100,000 revenue. But when you're on your own and you're just doing that, you've got a job. It's not a real business. Where it became a real business was then when we started having other employees. At first, he had a few contractors here and there. Then he used a labor hire firm, so he didn't have to hire directly. And then once he got busy enough, he hired directly for himself. And now he's got four trade. I can't remember if it's I can't remember what the exact mix is between apprentices and fully qualified, but so he's in electrical. And what they did, so as I was running through just normal electrical maintenance, upgrades, that sort of stuff, they actually bought a AV company and bolted it on, because they had a whole heap of people ask them to do cameras and all that sort of stuff. And then he saw a security company they were for sale, and he bought that because it had staff and it had all the contracts and everything. And they were doing a few new builds as well, putting just security systems in just different greenfield estates. So that's where you can sort of go vertical, and then horizontal, where it's adjunctive to your business as well. So it's a really good way to grow. So first go vertical, as in everything that's in your industry, or like your sort of, if you're an electrician, everything that's got to do with electrical. And then you can go a little bit horizontal, as in when I'm doing my electrical work, sometimes I might install a security camera or whatever it is, an intercom, all that sort of stuff. So then if an opportunity comes and you've got good cash flow and everything else and you can fund it, then purchasing another adjunct business and then rolling it up together, that's another way to grow and scale really quickly. Outside of that, there's nothing wrong with just, putting in the work, getting the marketing right, because no trades and construction, so there's so little advertising. Like, to me, businesses just don't advertise, and it's so easy these days. Like, you can literally go to ChatGPT, get an image ad written up, which is super simple, put it into Facebook, and you'll get leads straight away. Like, it's not hard, and it's very cost effective, but your competitors aren't doing it. Like, so many trades in that, they just rely on word of mouth. And like, if you're good at what you do, you'll get new clients word of mouth, but it's not a sustainable business.
Well, I appreciate actually, you know what, that you just segued to AI or technology now. So actually, there's still a lot of tradies, like you just said, hasn't used or haven't been dabbling themselves with technology like AI. And apparently, one of the key things that I want to mention as well is that if anyone actually heard about Cody Sanchez, one of the best businesses out there, because there's AI, there's this heaps technology out there, it's still the boring businesses. Still, that's actually going to make millions. It's not really those. I mean, yes, there's AI, but depending on what niche, and technically Australians predominantly, we have a lot of demand of, I mean, just recent recording that we've done from the Masters Electricians Association, which is Kate Raymond. One of the things that she also mentioned is that there's still a lot of demand backlog of houses for tradies. So apart from this, it's not just electricians, but obviously you cannot just build a house with an electrician. Obviously there's whole heaps of trades involved in here. Should not be, I mean, sorry, I'm not preaching it out in here, but in such a way that technically all the telltale signs that tradies would not be taken over by AI, by robotics in 5 years or probably in our lifetime, right? But if they augment what they're doing, right, like you just said, would actually really create a lot of difference on their businesses. So circling back to what you've seen, what you've mentioned, I appreciate. What else can actually tradies maximize utilizing any technologies probably that you've already been using out for your clients that probably everyone else is just missing out?
Yeah, so definitely use digital accounting software, because I think gone are the days where you just...
Number one.
Yeah, like I didn't hear about any... I know a lot of tradies like to do cashiers and things on the back of a receipt, but it will come and catch you up. Like, the government's all over that sort of stuff. These days, it's so easy just to have a mobile app, and it's on iPhone now as well. So you can do it on Android because originally they released it on Android. But like with the Xero app, you can do up an invoice and you can get your, like, especially if you're doing residential maintenance and that, they just tap the back of your phone. Like, you don't need anything. Like, you always got your phone on you, do up an invoice and get payment there. The benefit of that as well is that it helps your cash flow, because if you can get payment on site and you're not chasing people up, you're saving time, you're getting payment there. Or you can even just say, hey, to do that, it's going to cost this much. Tap here and then I'll do the work. Even better, you get paid up front. But it just saves a lot of time. As you get a little bit bigger, that's when you want to look at other tools. One of them that I use with one of my clients is called ServiceMate. It's just the word service and M8. Mm-hmm. That's really good project management software, especially if you've got multiple teams that you're sending out to different jobs and everything else, and it's quite robust and you can get quite in the weeds with it, but at the same time you can also use it very lightly. But it just helps you manage everything. If you don't know where this job is, where that person's at, and you're trying to run it all on the back of a piece of paper or like a paper diary, you're going to miss things, and there's going to be cost blowouts and everything else. If you have proper, like, a technical software or cloud software, and then you can also track everything, and like, everyone's got smartphones, so it has a smartphone app, all your staff can use it. Super simple, everyone uses it together, and then you just streamline that process. You don't miss out on anything, and then you can iterate a lot faster with doing your invoicing, doing your quoting and everything else. So they're just digital tools just to help speed up those processes, because I agree with you, like, AI is not going to replace people. Like, I don't think, maybe in some factories there might be more robotics and everything, but when it comes to building a house, especially with the amount of compliance and everything that we have in Australia, people aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Like, I'd say it's a very long time until we replace trades, with robotics. And even then, like, you're going to have people supervising and doing everything else. Because even if you look at all the mine sites, like, they might, instead of having one driver per dump truck in the mines in like WA and Queensland, you'll have one person in an operations room that will operate 2 or 3. So even once you do get to that level, it's the labor force doesn't even get cut down that much, and that's a very simple operation, just driving a truck up and down in a straight line. Like, you still have one person looking after 2 to 3 trucks. So I think utilize AI as much as possible for the business operations, so that way you can get the most out of your labor force, and then you're not tied up in too much paperwork. Because the biggest issue now is with all the compliance and everything else, there is a lot of paperwork that you can get caught up in. So if you can template that out, automate as much as possible, that's also another area where especially because it's just buying back your time, because your time's finite. So if you can have some sort of system or process in place where you can get all that paperwork out, and you're not working from 6 a.m. to 3 or 4, and then from 4 to 8 p.m. doing paperwork, if you can cut that time down, then you can use that time to either grow your business and work on your business, or spend time with your family.
Yep. Now, what are your thoughts of utilizing remote resources? Have you been using one?
So I do like remote resources in terms of to cut time down. Personally, our accounting's done onshore, but where we do use remote resources like video editors, and a little bit of help with marketing, although I've moved that to now AI, which has been great because I can sort of control it all myself. So I have been using AI a little bit more, which has replaced a bit of that external marketing function. But I think the right things you do want to outsource, especially if it's very like process based work. The in-person stuff you can't really outsource. Like, you're not going to be able to outsource someone to lay a couple of bricks or something like that. That might be a bit harder, but from an administrative point of view, I think it's a good stepping stone. But then a lot of the admin stuff that's getting outsourced now is actually starting to get replaced by AI as well. So I think both of them have to work in conjunction. But one of the crazy things is, because a lot of people use virtual receptionists, so they might use someone like a team in the Philippines that can answer the phones 24 hours a day and provide that support to do all the things. I was looking at a demo of an AI receptionist, which will do everything that a reception function does, and then if it's too complicated, it sends it to your actual team. So I was actually looking into it, because I was thinking of maybe doing it even for my business eventually. Because if someone wants to come in and they want to book a call, the AI can check my diary, go, oh yeah, so you want to come on as a client? All right, there's a 15-minute slot at this time. Does that work for you? Yes. All right, provide me your details. Takes all the details down and then books the appointment and like does everything like fully automated. I don't need a human to do that. So I do think that a lot of things that are outsourced, unless they're a little bit more specific and specialized, some of those will be replaced by AI. But I think it's really good just from a cost perspective, just because labor costs are so high in Australia, especially like admin or your sort of back office work. If you can get that outsourced, like there's a huge gain in profitability there.
Imagine actually just getting your life back, at least a quarter of a day, or let's say, a quarter of a day that you get it. And then here you are, you're actually running your business more efficiently and better, because you're not actually already entering or sending invoices. You're not the one who actually chasing or following up emails here and there, because some of them can be automated and with the likelihood of also passing on a little bit more technical stuff because of assistance of AI. Because now when your team member, let's say you have a remote team member and unsure of what to do, you can actually replicate yourself in such a way that if that person would require some assistance, it can think like you and give that person some guidance, as long as you train that AI well. I mean, obviously there's what we call like, I don't know if I can capture everything in my head yet, put it without thinking, but there's some parameters that you can say that, well, come on, you cannot just always just rely on that, but at least on some checks, the AI can actually assist you. And it's like the Lawrence AI that can give you guidance on what you need to do next. Yeah, it's
sort of like dumping your brain into the AI, and then it can also pull out other things that it's learned and trained on as well to help with that decision making and whatever else that you need. And I think it's also good for systems, processes, and like standard operating procedures, because there's so many tools out there where you can, you know, have the AI produce something as a starting point, and then have all those things put in, especially if you need different policies written up. One of the things that I even do that I find that's really good with AI, there's some AI tools where I can screen record and it'll actually make a whole standard operating procedure, how to do something. I can give it to my employees, or I can even just talk into the AI, and then it's sort of like, I just say, I need a policy done on this, and I'll just keep talking to it, like, this is my policy, this is how I want it to work, and everything else, and then it'll structure it all and fix up all the grammar and everything else from me just riffing on the phone to it for like 20 minutes. So it makes a policy document for me.
Okay, now let's delve back a little bit to you. What is the one piece of advice that got you where you are, shall we say?
It's definitely a tough one, because I've had a lot of good pieces of advice, but I'd say the main thing for me, which I've been quite fortunate, so both my parents have been business owners, so from a young age, as much as like, I know a lot of people will say like, oh, you know, I want to spend all this time with my family and whatever else. I was actually raised mainly by my grandmother, because my parents worked a lot. But it was actually just seeing their example, because I think your kids take after like what they see you do rather than what you say to them. And because I saw my parents always working very hard, it instilled a very strong work ethic in myself, which I'm quite grateful for. So I think by just having learned from actually their example of just, yeah, I think it's just always taught me, like, if you work hard enough for something, just keep your head to it and just keep chipping away, that you'll eventually find greatness in that. And I saw that in my parents, because they came from extreme poverty from my grandparents and made something by just, head down, work hard, and not listen to all the noise and everything about how you can't get ahead, how it's impossible to do this. So I think sometimes you just have to put the blinders onto those victims and those excuses, and then just go for it.
Love that. Well, this is a typical thing of companies who actually just, let's say, started, and if more likely, even if the business owner is very entrepreneurial, there's so many shiny objects out there that can really distract you. And I think that advice is really the main thing. I mean it's like underrated. So when you head down, really focus on that, it'll get you somewhere, right? Now, in terms of what advice can you give out there for them to, let's say, those who are struggling, let's say, in terms of profitability, what could be the telltale signs that they should be putting their hand up to reach out to you, and when is it, right? So what can they do as well? Yeah,
so there's sort of two elements to it. One, it might be just a cash flow issue, which is very easy to fix. The other is if you actually got profitable, like issues with profit. And because with profit is just income minus expenses equals profit. So there's only really two levers that you can look at, which is either you increase your prices or you become more efficient and you cut your expenses down. With some people, it is cutting the expenses down. They've got, sort of what you're saying before with shiny object syndrome. They go, oh, I want to have that subscription and that sounds good. I want to buy that, and I want to buy this for my business, and I want the high-end Hilux or whatever it is because it's FBT exempt, and I can use it to go camping and whatever else on the weekend and show off to my tradie mates and whatever else. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, yeah, cool. It's an FBT exemption, but do you really need it in your business? Is this the right decision for you? Because as much as it might be a tax deduction, if you're a small business, your tax rate's 25%. So why would you spend 75 cents to save 25 cents? Like, sometimes people get too blinded by, I want to pay the least amount of tax possible. It's like, yeah, do you know who else pays no tax? Homeless people. People on Centrelink, they pay no tax. So if you want to join them, like, go ahead. I just see tax as a success fee. So sometimes people get too blinded on just, I want to save the most, I want to pay no tax, so I'm going to spend as much money as possible. It's just like, well, it's not going to help your business, and it's not going to help you reinvest in your business and grow and move forward. So that's on the expense side. Then, with the pricing is very important. If you can't get your pricing right, you're never going to turn a profit, because, if you're way too high, your competitors are going to come at you, and if you price right underneath, you might get all the work, and then you're not going to be able to create a profit on it. So you just need to find that sweet spot. Or what I've been finding as well with one of my clients, he just focuses on doing corking, but he's known as like the best corker. Like, so he only does the highest end homes. He's based in Melbourne, so he'll do all like your Toorak homes, so the very expensive suburbs. Him and one other person, and he probably makes more money than some of my other clients that have got like 10 staff. Like, just because he's very specialized and he has a name there and he just does the very top end. And yeah, the very high-end luxury homes and all that they seek him out just because he's very, very good at what he does, and he's just focused on just one thing. And the reason why he's got one staff member, because the other staff member is just very, very high quality like himself. He is a little bit pigeonholed in the sense that it's hard to find other people to go to that quality. Yeah, but that's where you have to look at your pricing. What's your competition doing? Where are you positioning yourself in the market? Can you specialize in some area where people will pay more money and so you as a specialist rather than a generalist? So there's all these different elements around pricing. But ultimately, get your pricing right, make sure your expenses are right, and then you'll be profitable at the end.
Well, so to sum that up a little bit, it's like you don't know what you don't know.
Pretty much.
Now, to close off this conversation, again, appreciate your time. And is there any message you want to put out there, and how can they reach Lawrence?
Yeah, so my message is just start looking at your numbers. Like, I know some people it's a back thing or whatever, but if you know your numbers, like, the numbers don't lie. Your feelings will make, if you go from your heart, it'll burn you. If you go from your head, you'll overthink. I normally go from like my gut, like what is my gut feel, but I also like to see the actual numbers rather than doing things on emotion. Because just the data is there. You can fudge the numbers, but if you have a good accountant that looks after it, your numbers won't be fudged. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm across all socials, just under my full name, which is Lawrence Petruzzelli. It's a little bit hard to sell, so I'm sure that you'll have it in the show notes, or I'm sure it'll be in the thing. But if you just Google my name or go to lawrencepetruzzelli.com, you can get in touch with me. My business is mdbco.com.au, so if you want to look at my accounting firm as well, that's there. If not, just Google my name and you'll see all my different social media profiles and all my content, so feel free to look through all that and you'll learn a few things as well.
Okay, well, really lovely work, man. So very fortunate for you to shed a little bit of your time so we can, let a lot of tradies out there struggling out there just stay on. Your job, that work, that business you have won't go anywhere. You're still going to be very, very important. And here we are here out for you. So again, thanks so much for coming by, and look forward to seeing you. Previous last guest was actually from Queensland, so when I go there, definitely gonna catch up with you too. So
we'll definitely catch up, and thanks for having me on the show.
Wonderful. Thanks so much again, Lawrence, from the Profitable Estimator Podcast. Bye.